This tutorial video will guide you through integrating a SAML application with Form.io. We will cover the creation of a SAML application, integrating that application into Form.io, and configuring the authentication form embedded within the client application to instigate the SAML authentication process. I'll be using OneLogin as the SAML provider. However, the same principles can be applied to other SAML providers like Entra ID and Auth0. To start off, I'm going to navigate to my OneLogin admin dashboard and create a new application. I'm going to select this SAML custom connector, SAML 2.0, and we'll give the app SAML app a name, and we'll save the app. Next, we're going to add the endpoint information for our client application and Form.io project that will be communicating with the SAML application. I'm going to go to this configuration tab. The relay state and audience should be the live endpoint for your client application. For me, that's on localhost 3001. The ACS URL should be your project endpoint with /SAML/ACS appended at the end of the URL. I'm using localhost 3000 for my Form.io environment, and this HR application project is the project connected to my client application. I'm going to copy this live endpoint. I'm going to paste this in the ACS URL, and I'll add /SAML/ACS. I'll copy that and plug that into the ACS URL validator. And for this, we just need to add backslashes behind each of the /. We'll scroll down, and we're going to select this SAML signature element, and we want to make sure that assertion and response is both selected, so we're going to check both. Next, a parameter will be added to the application that will add groups to the SAML assertion within the authentication request. As mentioned before, each provider will be configured a little bit differently, so be sure to read through the documentation of whatever SAML provider you are using. So the field name will be groups. And this will be set to user role. All right, we're done with the SAML application configuration, so we'll save the app. Next, I'm going to add users to my SAML application that will be used to test the authentication. Go to the user tab here, click new user. And I'm going to set a password for this user. And we're going to add one more user here. With our users in place, I'm going to create some roles that I will assign to those users. These roles will be mapped to Form.io roles within our project so we can have granular permissions between SAML and Form.io. So we'll go to User tab and select Roles. The first role will be called Member. We're going to select our HR SAML app. Second role will be called Admin. Now we're going to open our role and assign some users. So for the member role, I'm going to add John. And for the admin role, I will add Lisa. Now users assigned to the selected role will be associated with the SAML application. The last thing we will do for our SAML app is download the XML file that will be used to construct our passport configuration, which is a JSON object that will be used to integrate the SAML application with our Form.io project. So I'm going to go back to my application, select my app, and go to this More Actions and download the SAML metadata, which is the XML file. So here's my XML file, and you can go to our help documentation for guidance on constructing the passport configuration for different providers. So I'm going to use this as a template, and I'll basically just take information from the XML file and plug them in accordingly to the passport config. Alright, I have my passport config ready to go, so we can now configure the Form.io project. To access the SAML authentication settings, go over to your project settings, click Authorization, SAML, and then Passport Config. Here's where we will paste our passport config. For the email path, this provider uses name ID, and we're going to set role path to groups. To map our SAML roles to our Form.io roles, let's go back to the SAML application and double check our role names. These are sometimes called groups for other providers. So as a reminder, we have member role, which is assigned to John, and the admin role, which is assigned to Lisa. So back to our Form.io project, we're going to add the role name, member, and we're going to select the authenticated role. And for admin, we're going to select the administrator role. We'll save our settings. Next, we're going to modify our user login form, which is the authentication form embedded with our client application. And this form will be used to instigate the SAML authentication process. I'm going to edit my user login form, add a button called Login with SAML. We're going to change the action to custom. And we're going to add this code to the custom logic code block. This button will be used to trigger some code that will be saved into our hidden component, which we'll be adding next. Click Data, Custom Default Value, and paste the following JavaScript into the code block. These code snippets can be found in the Form.io help documentation linked within the description of this video. So we'll save our component, save our form. Finally, the last thing to do is test our SAML authentication. I'm going to navigate to my application. We have the Login with SAML button here. When I click that, I should be redirected to one login. I'm going to log in as John. There we go. We're authenticated into the app. If I look at my user object within my dev console, I can see we have the member SAML role from one login, and this is the authenticated role ID from Form.io. Now if I log out, and log in with Lisa, we're logged in. and I'm going to have the OneLogin admin SAML role, and then this is the administrator role ID from Form.io. Be sure to check out our help documentation about SAML authentication, linked in the description of this video for more information about Form.io and SAML, as well as walkthroughs for integrating different SAML providers with Form.io. Thanks for watching.